we've seen this morning about the overall talk on the innovation centers, the approaches, the setups, the focus, and so on. And then right now, we're all talking about live business, how critical live business is. And we are all speaking earlier a little bit, and we thought about pilot having to, fly his aircraft, and then eventually also to land it. And in the end, if he's getting the updates every 10 minutes or 15 minutes instead of real time, you won't want to be on that job, right? And such are our businesses today as well. So everything at the fingertips, real time, so that you can take those right decisions at the right point of time, and we call it live business. Live business is real. So today, together with the star-studded panel here, we are about to evaluate some of the best practices, some of the improvements in the management structures, as well as, how do you improve the management tasks on the fly to adjust to the real business environment. So in our discussion, we've got Ingo Brenckmann. Ingo is the Vice President for Cloud Ecosystem at the line of business finance at SAP. He's actually based here in the ISP as well. So thanks, Ingo, for joining. And for those who have not noticed, he's a tall man. So, Ingo, thanks for joining. We've got Eckert. Eckert is, I talked about the landing portion, and that's where Eckert is the controlling manager for SAP's board area P&I altogether, which is products and innovations, what we do. So Eckert, Kowal, thank you for joining us as well. And last but not the least, we've got Michael. Michael is also Vice President at LOB Finance, and he actually joined SAP as a financial analyst, and in today's discussion, he's going to keep wearing his financial analyst hat, and that makes it really very, very interesting. So, all right, team. So let's get on, right? So I'll actually start with you, Michael. So we said, okay, live business and finance. We all have seen that the financial markets have been a little bit all over the place. In the past decade, more or less. So can you, from an analyst standpoint, tell us why does software really play such a big role? Or does it play a big role at all? Mm-hmm. And are we in the right direction to, let's say, respond to the financial turmoils?
Mm-hmm. Well, you were talking about the financial markets. Ever since the financial crisis, there's been a huge amount of volatility in all of the asset classes, so currencies, commodities, and equity. But even if you go back to 2000, so in the last 16 years, just in terms of the rate of change, in fact, over 50% of the Fortune 500 companies have either gone broke or simply dropped off the list or been acquired. So the rate of change is unprecedented. And it's very hard for companies to be able to manage that rate of change. If we look more recently in Europe, there are companies in the UK trying to figure out, where do we put our investments? Do we move our headquarters? Do we have to change our services, our product offerings? And what we can do from SAP is that we can help them sort of understand where to invest, help them with the decision-making process. And it helps if you have a digital core, because you need to be able to view your business from any perspective, and that's very important. And what we're doing now is we're building applications that leverage this digital core so we can get a very clear understanding of the position for any company at the moment, and that helps them take a better decision to go, where are we going to go in the future, and what will be the impact based on real data, the data that's in our system. And I know this is a little bit unlike a normal panel format, but to make this more tangible, I'd like to show a quick demo of one of our applications. It's called the SAP Financial Statement Insights application. And this really highlights the power. On the screen, if you look at the screen right now, we're showing the operating profit of two different divisions in a hypothetical car company. Now, the top line is the operating profit for a petrol car division, and the bottom line is the operating profit for the electric car division. Now, we can see that the petrol car, even though it's larger, it's flattening off, and the electric car is growing. And we believe this is happening because there's a change in the market. There's a shift towards leasing. So the question is, how can a company quickly react to this? Well, with this application, we can actually rebuild hierarchies, any of the hierarchies in the filter bar on the fly. And then what that does is it aggregates, and we can change our business on the fly. So let's open up, and we're going to create a new hierarchy. So first thing I'm going to do is we're going to create a top-level node, and we're simply going to rename this Business Model 2016. Then the next step is we're going to create two divisions that don't exist in the current business model. And the beauty of this application is it's very flexible application. We can actually drag nodes from the existing hierarchy and then place them in the new divisions that we've created on the right-hand side. Now you'll notice that as we're doing this, it's actually recalculating the operating profit for these new departments, these new divisions on the fly. And this is off 800 million line items. So this is really using big data. So let's save this. Let's go back. So we've created this new hierarchy. This is a very basic simulation, but we'll go back. And now you remember that we've got the old business model applied in terms of the filters. So we'll remove the petrol car and the electric car filters for both operating profit lines. And then we're going to reapply filters according to the new business model, so the leasing and the direct sales. Now, if we quickly switch to show quarterly accumulation, we're going to see that actually by the last quarter, the operating profit for these two divisions is pretty much the same. So we can actually see on top of our own data, on a new business model that we've just created, we get very valuable insight in terms of what would happen if we actually changed our business model. Yeah, so this is just to make tangible what I was talking about, how we can help companies react to sudden changes in the market.
That's great. So we are now able to reflect those changes in the real time. Ingo, question to you, what has changed? How are we able to do that now?
I mean, what you just saw is quite impressive because we're doing this on really millions of records. So you're looking at a company live as it's working. So in order to calculate that, you need immense compute power. And we just heard from NVIDIA the possibility now to use thousands of cores. And that is exactly a technology trend we banked on years ago when we identified this multi-core technology as being disruptive. And we implemented a database technology for that, the in-memory database. And that database is capable of zooming through millions of records in virtually no time. So out of the equation of any application, we're taking the time. So where you needed to wait in the past for the database to answer, that's gone. So now you can think about rearranging the data and reorganizing the data in the way you need it for your business. And as things are changing, that is a standard feature now of the application. In the past, you could prepare, because business was stable over 5 or 10 years, so you could prepare models. But today, next week, they might be irrelevant, so you need to adapt to that. Now, in order to be able to do that, you need applications like the one we just saw that are implemented in the cloud. So you also need a vehicle to get that to the customer. So cloud, many people think like, wow, that's just a, I don't want to say the word, but it's a buzzword. But it actually means a very different way of designing software and writing software. So what we are now capable of doing is we can take requirements from our customers, turn them into software, and ship them within days. So if I recognize a problem and I implement it, I can immediately provide it to the customer because I'm no longer shipping software. The customer just subscribed to something I'm offering in the network. I would like to show an application here, which is RealSpend. And that's an application where we are also using this real-time information, and it perfectly aligns with the example you were giving. So if I'm a pilot and I need to land my aircraft on the runway, I better hit it. So I'm not in front of it, and I better be not behind the runway.
It, yeah.
So when you're looking at the way people were managing their budgets in the past, they would get a report at the end of the month or at the end of the quarter. Now, it's really hard to actually meet your budget if the information you get is months old. So what we try to do here is write an application that connects to a live system, gives you insights into your spending patterns, so what have you spent, and it also gives you insights into what you're planning to spend, so what are people going to spend over the year. So the yellow line you see here, that's what's going to happen in the future. And I can go into details and look into the details to see what's happening in a quarter or in a month. And I can also go to the detail level, so really seeing the line items, because that's where the in-memory database come into play. So we are really working with all the details. So we're not making any assumptions ahead of time. we are really calculating this when I look at it. So I can take virtually any view on this data, look for sales, look how that distributes. I can drill down into the accounts, look after the accounts, what's going on in the accounts, and that's responding just in a second. And all of this data gets calculated in the background from the original data sets. So no matter which train of thought I want to follow, I can actually do that. Now, sometimes even that is too rigid, so I would like to impose some structure of my own, like you showed the hierarchy editor. And here in this, you have the possibility to create tags. So you might know tags from Twitter. So if you tweet something and you attach a tag, then you can afterwards search for certain tags and find messages that people have posted around a certain topic. And in here, we can tag records. So individual postings in the system. So I can say, okay, I'm interested in a couple of projects, and I would like to create a tag project 1. So that would be projects, the group, and then, okay, let's do it this way, no problem. And then we create a tag project 1. And now I associate some data with it. So I go into the internal orders, for example, pick direct market research, and I go into the cost centers, and pick field 1, for example, and I'm done. So that's my project 1. So that's the expenses which are associated with the project. And I would like to monitor that project over time and make sure it stays within budget. So I can now go ahead. So let's take the annual view, yes, and then I go ahead and I see project 1, which I just created. It's a new data structure, so it's now in the data and I can work with it. And I can analyze the expenses and I can set a budget. So the spend is now 78,000. So I set the budget to 130,000 as the maximum I would like to spend on that project. And now I can, yeah, I'm generous. You know. So I can now track all my expenses against that budget to make sure I stay in budget. Yeah. So that's such an application that really gives you insights into the business, that goes into all the details, into the million records, but provides you with the flexibility to respond to whatever demand you have in that situation.
Oh, fantastic, thanks. I'm looking at, Michael, what you said earlier from the need perspective, from a financial analyst perspective. You just showed us from a development readiness or, development perspective that it's there. I'm smiling because I'm looking at Eckert right now because he's the guy who's the end user. So let me take the end user view, the landing guy, as I call you, new nickname for you today. So what are the key ingredients for you to really do this real time, accept this real time reporting? Let's say.
Yeah, I mean, let me first. In general, it's not only the real time. Let's start with these functionalities that we just saw in this presentation. This is really what we need as a controller, but as well for the business, for the line managers. I'm supporting the board area P&I, products and innovation, like you said. And a lot of line managers, they're really interested in exactly this data. For example, you saw travel spend. What is my budget? How far are I away? How much money do I have left? This is very important information, and this is what the people really do need to really manage their budgets. And I'm coming back to your question, real time. It's really very important to have this data more or less immediately. We just closed our quarter, and okay, this is quarter end, you need the data. It doesn't matter if it's quarter end or if it's in the middle of the month, but let me give you this example. On the very last day, and we have a really hard timeline to get everything done. There you really need to know what is posted, what do you already have in your database? And you get calls, millions of calls. You can say, did you do that? Do you have the posting? Where do I stand? And this is what you can easily say, look, this is your report. The manager himself or herself could create a report like we saw and then check what is in there and does have the information without calling a controller or anybody from the financial department. It's really cool stuff that really helps. That's a big benefit, a big value.
Right, so you're saying it's the functionality itself, it's a simplicity of the use of that functionality, and of course the speed and the response time needed, right?
Absolutely.
But that's like almost driving in optimal conditions, right?
Yeah.
So what does the world out there look right now? So what are the current practices? Yeah.
Unfortunately, much worse, as you can imagine. What are controllers doing? They are working with Excel. Everybody is working with Excel, and it's data from somewhere, yeah. And sometimes you have to wait not only hours, maybe days to get it. Or if you do access the system where currently the postings are done, sometimes you wait not only for seconds but for minutes or maybe even longer if data is processed. So that's really a mess, and that doesn't provide transparency, that doesn't help to steer the business. And this is unfortunately the situation that we are currently in. It's much too much manual effort, not automated, and not real time, what we are currently doing.
Absolutely. Michael, same on this. I mean, it seems like really the current practices don't really suffice the needs of today, and I'm sure they do not suffice the needs of tomorrow as well.
Right.
What are your thoughts?
I know. I mean, when I was working as an analyst, we did all our analysis in Excel. And the problem there is that you're disconnected with other people who are also doing the same analysis on the same data. With these new applications that are coming out, everyone can work in the system, which means they're all looking at the same version of the data as well. Mm-hmm. And because we can aggregate everything on the fly, it means that we're not taking exports out of a system at an aggregated level. We have full flexibility to do the type of analysis that we want to do. Mm-hmm. And that just wasn't possible before. And in fact, tasks that used to take about 2 weeks to do, we can do far faster now. And that means we can actually spend more time actually providing value to the business rather than having to waste time trying to build those reports.
So keeping on the digitalization trend, it still seems to be quite a big challenge for many organizations, as we have seen. So why is that? I mean, and what are the means in a way how we can really tackle the situation?
Well, there are multiple reasons for that. One of the reasons is that even though tools like spreadsheets are not optimal, they do provide a lot of freedom, and we get used to it. So it's important for us as developers to be able to provide the same kind of freedom and flexibility that you get with spreadsheets, but have that in our applications that we're building. So like Ingo was showing before, how you can tag. If I think about how I used to work in Excel, I would create my own types of dimensions by adding additional columns that I could then filter against. Mm-hmm. In RealSpend, you can now do that in the application. This is the kind of value that we need to show the users, the end users, that the flexibility that we had before in Excel, spreadsheets, any kind of spreadsheet, you can now have, I should just mention that Excel's not the only one, that you have that same flexibility and functionality in the cloud as well.
And the tricky part is actually to identify it, right? So,
Absolutely.
I mean, if you're familiar with your Excel spreadsheet, you don't know that there could be a different way of doing it. Yeah. So we're trying to understand these business situations to really understand what is the problem, what is the situation at the customer. So we're doing co-innovation projects with customers, bringing them in, looking at the way they are working, trying to understand that, and actually identifying these parts where we can take our technology in order to advance that. So where would be the benefit of having real-time information? You need to understand what the problem of the customer is. So that's exactly what we're trying to do here in the with our co-innovation in the Innovation Center here in Potsdam. That's our methodology, our concept. Yeah.
And you're working directly with the business users?
Yes. So we are inviting business users, talking with them about the situation they're in, strategizing, so what could be a strategy. And we have a methodology which is called design thinking, where we're really trying to look from the outside at the problem, understanding the problem, finding the breadth of the problem, and then actually identifying these specific topics that we could address that are worth addressing. Like in this case, the budget topic being a pain point, where people were working with Excel spreadsheets. So we had this throughout the entire company. So we could address it. How do we address it? We figure out different technologies that are applicable, and then we apply the appropriate technology to actually solve it. So that's the methodology or the kind of theme.
Collaborate and do things together with the empowered users, as you mentioned. Now, I'm looking at Eckert again because you've been part of such a process. So, making it real. how does it feel to be part? Because this is also a new way in which the business is getting involved, developing something that they will use. You know, so what was your experience like? You working on the RealSpend part right now?
Correct.
Right?
Yeah. So we work in a project together with the team of Ingo, and we are about to implement the tool for the P&I organization, products and innovation, and really good experience, very, very collaborative work. And the most important thing from our perspective was, of course, that we could ask for features for, we do have maybe not special requirements, but definitely requirements that we do see as necessary for the tool. Let's take an example. We needed, for example, different currency sets. We needed different authorization to really immediately get the right information and to get the right access to the tool. And so we could ask for these features, and we were invited in testings and really made a lot of good experiences to get our requirements covered on the one hand side. And I guess as well for the team, it was valid feedback, not only from the controllers, but you have to see our customers are the managers, the line managers. We really know what they need. So you do have both aspects. So from a controlling perspective, finance perspective, as well as from the counterparts in the business, what is needed. And I think this was a good input, and we are on a very good, I would say, way and implement soon the tool for the dedicated
So you had multiple members of your team involved in this process?
Yeah. Correct. So it's not only the P&I controlling community, also the global controlling organization. Colleagues worked together with us and our team from enterprise analytics. So you really have, let's say, a big knowledge from everywhere.
And collaborative team in that case. Yeah. And also, what I like to hear was the involvement you had with the feedback process, right? So that the cycles were short. Yeah. Now, that's I'm sure that's not easy, because again, the businesses have not been used to stay that involved in developing something that's coming up. But at the same time, I mean, it's the a big part would be, Ingo, for you as a development manager. I mean, you do need to create a different work environment for this, right? Yeah. So in order to drive that innovation and continuously have people on the go, what are the kind of things you put together in the team? Well,
yeah, I mean, one thing we really need in the team is this hunger for new things. So people really need to be interested in understanding what's going on in the business, what is the particular use case. So going beyond technology and just going beyond the pure requirements, really understanding what does it mean? What is the user actually trying to accomplish, and how could we support the user? Now, obviously, there is tons of technologies, and it's really hard sometimes to make a call. So what is the right approach for a problem? So one thing we are also trying to foster is this idea of failing early. So this idea of startup. So there's nothing wrong with starting out on a trip and then figuring out that was not the correct path to take. That's part of the process. So really fostering this climate where you say, okay, I'm gonna check a new technology. I'm gonna go to the colleagues with the machine learning, and we're gonna check out whether that's pretty cool if we apply that to our front end in order to support the user to identify actually an outlier or an anomaly in a spending pattern. Now, it could turn out that the algorithm isn't perfect for that. Okay, no problem, we've tried it. But having this idea and having kind of this environment in which you're trying things out, in which you investigate opportunities, and then actually come up with a product that hopefully is very cool for the user. That's something we're trying to accomplish in the work environment. That people are really hungry for the new stuff, and they do not shy away from trying it out.
Great, and I'm and how about sharing of the sort of having the common belief? You said yes, they need the hunger, inducing a little bit of values and passions and bring it all together across.
Yes, I mean in this environment we are working, collaboration is very important. So we're using open source frameworks in order to pull in best practices from the world. We are also sharing our insights with other teams so that we are collaborative throughout the organization. That is very important because if we come to a state where different departments contribute different services, actually these services coming together generate a multitude of the value that in each individual component would have.
Yeah, great. So speaking of acceptance, like you mentioned earlier, this more independent, more empowered user today will not accept something that's pushed on him. So we figured out, or we learned that you're doing it in a bit more in a way which everybody is involved and so on. But Eckert, now when the rubber hits the road, how do you make sure that your team and your team is going to basically accept that change, because it's not only a new software, it's a bigger change that comes along with that. So how do they accept that change and the corresponding innovations?
They do really accept it, and they like it. I'm talking now once again on the controlling community, because they do see that saves a lot of time if they don't have to pull data from somewhere, if they don't have to ask questions on the call. That's a real big benefit, because the information is there. The people can pull the information themselves, and that frees really up time for my team, for the people to work on other topics, like that you really do business talks, that you pull or that you provide information that is needed for steering, and not to waste time by collecting data. So a lot of my team members are really keen on working on that and really willing to support in the best way possible. And we are looking really forward for the next month. Yeah.
No, that's fantastic. Any questions from the audience to the panelists here? Yes, we have one up there. Yes, please.
My name is Katzer. I'm from Singapore.
You've got this guy called
Hello,
Mike.
Thank you. I wanted to elaborate more on this statement you made, that the cloud development is making it faster for the requirements to be fulfilled by the programmer. I just wanted to have a little bit more grasp on it.
Yes. I mean, that's really the interesting part with the cloud development. It changed our entire perspective on the development process. So in the cloud environment, we're capable of pushing new software virtually any moment. So you might be familiar with tools like Gmail. You never know when there's a new feature, because Google just pushes it out to the cloud and you can use it. And in a similar fashion, in the RealSpend, we are capable of pushing new features every 4 hours. So whenever we're done, we can basically push that out to our customers and activate it. So having this possibility had an impact on the way we're developing software. Because we're taking an agile approach where we are working in sprints, and we look for every sprint what is currently relevant for the market. So we are not taking a road and then follow that road for 1.5 years developing software and then shipping a huge package with tons of features and then look at the market whether the market still likes it. We can now ship new capabilities every week and reconsider our priorities every week. So when we get feedback from customers that maybe a feature we implemented wasn't that nice and we should change something, we can just change it. And this way we're capable of having a very different cycle in the way we are dealing with software shipment and the way how we are getting capabilities to our customers. And I think that's really the strong part of the cloud, where applications can respond to changes in the market, in the demand, very quickly and adapt specifically. I think that's very strong, and that's a capability coming with the cloud. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. We had one more question. So did I? Yeah.
So it was I had a somewhat technical question regarding the collaboration in your design, in your process. So for example, if you have an idea and want to work it out, so normally you ask your customers what they want, but sometimes the customers don't know yet what they want. I mean, it's the famous story of Ford, who said the horses would have been much faster. So how do you bring in that kind of thing? So bring in ideas from your side into such an iteration.
Yeah. So part of this concept of the design thinking is to have people from many different faculties in the team. So that you have designers in the team, you have people who have the expertise with the database, you have people who have the understanding for the business topic in the team. And together they are discussing the problem that the customer has. So typically there's something that a company is considering not running optimal. So they would be interested in optimizing something. And then we talk about the specific task, try to understand it. And with the people in the room, there's typically an idea coming up. There's actually a multitude of ideas coming up. And that's the synthesis step in the first part, where you really try to list virtually every idea you can come up with to address the problem, no matter how crazy it is. And then within this group of people, you think about which of these could be actually realistic to be implemented and to be solved, and then follow that trail. So that's really kind of this process of design thinking that enables that, together with a team of people with many facets of knowledge in the room.
But what if you had a solution in your mind already, which is of course not allowed, I think, officially? Can you bring it into the synthesis moment, or is that the possibility?
Yes, I mean, that's sometimes the dangerous part, that you have a preset mind. So you already have the solution in mind when you talk about the problem. That's always very tricky. It's also, it helps to have people in the room who are asking questions and then challenging you on your solution, because they need to understand that this solution actually fits to the problem. So you need to also explain your solution, and it's in the context of the others. So it becomes one possible path. But again, it also requires moderators in the design thinking process.
Absolutely.
To follow.
Yeah. I was going to mention that's where the role of the coach is so important, that he maintains the balance on who's, maintains the balance in that creativity versus pushing a little bit, intriguing, getting things out at the same time, have a bit of push. And I think we do spend a lot of time in the fundamental research as well, which includes technological as well as the user-based needs. So sort of comes together.
So for example, we use design thinking for this building. So helping the teams design the rooms and how this looks like, that was part of such a design thinking process, where we really looked into the needs of our employees and how they would like to work.
Yeah. Whereas the expertise on the building elements itself did come from the designers, from the architects, the facility management on the processes, and all together we are actually here, standing tall, like you.
I asked for the doors to be
to be a bit. Yeah, I was going to say it later, if you know why is the reason that we have taller doors. But yeah. No, great. Thank you for the question. Any I have chance for one last question. Anybody? If not, I have one. Surprise, Michael, coming to you. Now the perception of the digital transformation where we started, it's still more like a threat. How can we enable our customers to look at it more from an opportunity standpoint?
I mean, I guess I can just reiterate what Ingo and Eckert have been saying, in terms of we have to show the value that is there, and we also have to show that it's easy to get to. We have to make it easy to consume. And this is why the cloud is so important, because it makes it easier for us to get the innovation to our customers and for them to try it out. And then it's almost like they can try it side by side. I've got this problem, I need to solve it. And if I can quickly and easily try it out and solve this problem with this new application, at the same time comparing it with how I was doing it before, then I can easily understand the value it is to me. And that's hard, because change management is a difficult difficult process. We get used to the tools we're using. We come in the morning, I know what I'm going to do, I know how to do it, and if there's a new application, it might take a bit of time to learn. We have to show that it's easy to learn, it's easy to consume, and they get the value straight away. That's important. That's our job. That's what we have to do, and it's part of the challenge for us.
Absolutely. Thank you. Any final thoughts, final words before closing? Eckert? You're excited?
Yeah, it was really exciting the first time that I'm here in Potsdam, and I like the spirit, I have to say, and of course I like also your building.
Absolutely. Ingo, any closing remarks from your side?
I mean, it's always a pleasure to work with the people that are really using the software and then really taking the approach of solving something. It's very rewarding to see if you can improve the way people are doing their work. So that's fantastic.
Absolutely. So thank you very much. Big applause to the panel for sharing so openly. Yeah.